She is
Recording
our
in
newest
progress.
Finance Committee member. So hello, Shelby, and we look forward to working with you this season.
Thanks, I'm excited to be here.
Great. So let's go on to our 7:05 agenda item, which is a review of special town meeting articles. And we're going to start with Article 5, which is the 51 Main Street building. And Tom Mahana is going to speak to us about that. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Christina. Good evening, everybody. So I have a presentation. Not sure if you want me to go through it or not, or we just want to just talk about costs. You know, however, I don't know how much time you want to spend on this.
Yeah, I think if you could go through the presentation, I think that would be helpful for the members.
Okay. Dan, do you have
Thank
that? Great. And I'll fly through this. And I know Jody and I have already talked about this. This is not going to be the presentation that's going to be given at town meeting. It's going to be a much shorter version with so we're still working to revise this, but this is pretty similar to what we'll be giving on Thursday night at the public meeting. All right, so that's a rendering of the exterior view. So as most folks know, this building is going to replace the existing fire station. That station will be demolished. That station was built in 1974. It's been vacant since fire department moved to their new headquarters almost 4 years ago. So the building is not salvageable due to its poor condition and its age. Oof. Next slide. I'm not going to get into all the details on the timeline, but we really started working on this project and planning this almost 7 years ago, back in 2015, when we started planning the new fire station. Our first official study on the building was completed by Context as a feasibility study. That was completed in 2018. But one of the things I wanted to point out on these next two slides, so we've actually been now with the original appropriation of 2017 annual town meeting for the feasibility study, that was $60,000. We have now been to 4 town meetings, 2017, 18, 19, and 20, for different appropriations for both the architectural and engineering costs for this, and also for costs to complete the relocation of the communications tower. But essentially, this study recommended that a new 9,100 square foot building be constructed with some of the key features we'll talk about a little later. Next slide. Just a little bit more about the timeline. So again, the project kind of took a pause when the pandemic hit in March 2020. At that time, we were preparing to go to town meeting that spring, but then of course everything changed. We restarted in 2021. At that point, the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee became actively involved in the project. One of their recommendations, as part of some of their recommendations and their input, select board approved $92,000 for ARPA funds. It was used to kind of evaluate the energy efficiency and sustainability options for the project. So we'll talk a little bit about that next slide. But I also just wanted to point out too that so to date, there's been almost $900,000 appropriated towards this project. This project is going to address 6 key identified department and space needs for the community. And the marquee of the project is our new large meeting and community room / training room. And the building will also provide new office space for these five departments. Technology, veteran services, and facilities are located in inadequate spaces. We're also creating space for newly created positions in town, the sustainability and wellness coordinators. Next slide. So I don't think I have to, explain these pictures to anybody. If you've ever been at when we were still meeting in person, this was what a typical meeting would be like in the town hall. So this is part of what we want to try to address, particularly with the new meeting room, is to provide adequate space for meetings and functions that go on. And the meeting room is really used by so many different departments and committees throughout town. The existing space only really has seating for about 20 people. Next slide. Technology located in the old fire station down in Fort Village. inadequate space for a number of reasons. These pictures kind of depict what what their conditions are that they work in. Most importantly, what's most concerning is all of the servers are located on the first floor in the old bays of the fire station. Really an inadequate space for that equipment. Next slide. Veteran Services located in Millennium. The key issue there is how far people that go to visit the office or meet with the veterans agent, how far they have to park and walk to get into this building. And as most people can appreciate, a lot of these people that use this or need to meet with the veterans agent are either elderly or or disabled, and it's just not a convenient location for people to get in and out of. Next slide. Facilities are a fairly newly created department in town. They're also located in Millennium, and they have a shared space with Veteran Services. So they have needs too, as their department starts to grow. They have inadequate space for their staff and for their file and plan storage. Next slide. Just a quick slide showing the site plan. It might be a little hard to read here. We'll have this enhanced, but the new building is going to go within the footprint of the old fire station. Next slide. Shows the two floor plans. So it's a two-story building. There's no basement. Total square footage is about 9,500 square feet. First floor will include the large meeting room, along with office space for Veteran Services. The second floor will include office space for IT, facilities, along with sustainability and the community wellness coordinator. Next slide. Oh, this is the old one. Oh, Dan, you didn't get the updated one? I sent you earlier. Anyway, this is the new meeting room. I do actually have a rendering of what that building will look like, what that space will look like. That's okay, Dan. That's okay. Sorry. I just sent it to you right before the meeting. Next slide. Some of the goals, energy conservation and sustainability goals, as I mentioned earlier, one of kind of the real advantages of the project being put on pause 2 years ago is we were kind of able to take a step back and collaborate with the Clean Energy Sustainability Committee and really focus on some initiatives that we could introduce into this project. So this just kind of highlights some of the different goals in energy conservation that will be included in this new building. And most importantly, it's going to be a high efficient electric heating and cooling system through the use of air source heat pumps. And I think that was really a key, a key advantage of this new phase of the design. The building will be designed for provisions for solar PV, but we will not, the current plan will not include actual furniture installation of a PV system. Next slide. Again, just some more of the goals of the project, some of the R value, installation values. We're trying to really exceed the minimum code requirements. We have the building project will be approaching an EUI of 25, which is optimal for this type of building. Some of the other metrics and goals here of the project, but it really kind of highlights the town's commitment towards net zero emissions, and that was a goal of not only our committee but also the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. Next slide. So this is a summary of the project budget, which I think you guys have probably seen by now. So the key point here is that the building construction costs have been escalated out to summer of 2023. That's when we expect to be out to bid and have construction to start. So our cost estimator has updated the cost based on the recent changes to the plan and added some contingencies and escalation factors into that time period. Next slide. Okay. Dan, any chance you could actually go back, find that one that I just sent you, because that also includes the operating costs.
Yeah, I got it right here, Tom. Give me one
Okay.
second.
Thank you. I just wanted just to highlight, we did estimate the annual operating costs for the building too, and I just wanted to point that out and show our updated renderings too. Great. So this is the estimated annual operating costs. So the biggest portion of the cost are the operating costs for the heating and cooling system. And again, as I mentioned, it's the whole building. The whole building is electric, so there's no natural gas as part of this. So between the annual electric costs and maintenance costs just for the heating and cooling system, about $33,000. Light and power, we estimated about $6,000. We looked at actually what the electric, the utility costs are for the tech, for IT at their existing building, and this is comparable to what the town is currently spending. Although that that location that they're in now is much more inefficient than the new space we'll be in. Also looked at water and sewer costs. So this is based on similar consumption of the town hall. And then we just carried a small allowance for annual building maintenance. Granted, it's a new building. You don't expect to have a lot of maintenance costs in the first few years of the building, but I wanted to point out too that that's not a labor cost. So, I have been speaking with Eric Heidman, and, I don't think the town has determined yet how they plan on if they need to add additional janitorial staff to maintain this building. So that factor does not, those costs are not factored in. So we estimate that the annual operating costs will be, less than $50,000 a year. Next slide. Okay, so that's one of the updated renderings. Actually, could you go back just a couple of slides, Dan, just so that everybody can see the rendering of the there you go. So that's a rendering that was developed of what the new conference room will look like. And again, this space can seat up to 100 people, and it's also going to have two retractable partition walls, so that we could actually have multiple functions going on within that space. And one of the other key points we wanted to make, especially with Chief Chambers on in the meeting here too, is another one of the goals of this project was to reinstate the police training room that we used, where we basically took over when we built the combined dispatch center as part of the new fire station project. And that was a commitment that the town made to the police department, and that's one of the goals we want to achieve here with this new project and with this new space. I believe
could I just interrupt for 1 second?
Right,
Jody, Jody, do you have your hand up to add something?
Yes, so I wanted to say that we do not believe that there will be additional janitorial or custodian costs. Tom, I haven't communicated that with you, but we right now send our town hall custodian down to the technology center to clean there, so that would go away. So we're not expecting to have to add any staff. So
okay.
You may want to update your slide, and I just want to make that point. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Jody.
So I think that was really it on the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so I'll start with the Finance Committee members. Anybody have any questions for Tom? Tom LaFlame.
Yes, I have a couple here. First, does that technology department move cost include recent quotes from fiber contractors? Because I happen to have an intimate knowledge of how technology is set up there. So that's one thing. Do you want me to rattle them off, or do you want to answer each one?
We have not received any quotes to as far as relocation of the fiber. I know when we moved fire station down, or when we moved the fire department down to their new headquarters, there was some fiber relocation costs for that, but we don't anticipate having similar costs for this move.
Okay. My understanding is that everything's terminated in the existing IT building, so that's that would be an issue from the technology standpoint. Another one is, are there allowances for technology in that big meeting room for hybrid meetings already, or are we going to be relying on Westford Cat to be providing that equipment?
Well, the building will be designed to handle both, I guess is probably the best way I could answer that.
Okay. Last one that I have is, as part of this, with moving the IT department, would we be looking to offload that building from our inventory? And if so, what's the expected value? I know that a number of years ago, we sold a very similar station, and obviously it's not apples to apples at this point, but it's just an offset cost if that's a possibility.
Yeah, Jody's got her hands up. I think she wants to address that.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, that would be our plan, would be to sell that building. I don't know exactly what it would bring in. The market's changed quite a bit. We did get, I can't remember the exact amount now, so I guess I won't say, but yeah, we would sell the building. It would not bring in huge money, but it would bring in some. And the other thing on your question on the quotes, Mike Wells has been intimately involved in this and has given us his estimates. So I think he's, pretty sure of what he needs to move technology. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Beth? You're muted, Beth.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Can you hear me now? Okay, so I was wondering if there's any changes made in response to COVID to the building as far as like air purification needs and anything like that?
Yes, between COVID and just kind of a whole reevaluation of the mechanical system. Yeah, I mean, the mechanical systems are highly efficient. We've also looked at different, trying to introduce as much daylight, into the space. So the architect has made some modifications to the building that, probably directly are as a result of COVID and their experience with, designing similar spaces in other communities. So I can't give you specific examples, right now, other than I do know that, we did, factor that into the, the mechanical system design and some of the other features of the building.
Do we have a cost estimate if we were to add solar to the building? Do we have any cost estimates on that?
I believe that's being handled under the Amoresco agreement, so that's why that's not being included as part of this project.
Okay. Do we know where the wellness coordinator is currently housed?
Jody could answer that.
Yes, so I actually wanted to make sure that's mentioned, but she is in a conference room in the town hall. We only have 2 conference rooms, so she's taking up one of them, and she's actually sharing that space with animal control. So, we're definitely out of room for space. The new sustainability coordinator, I believe, is tucked in with the facilities department in Millennium. But anyway, so yep, that's where she is. First door, you go upstairs in the back of the town hall and you go to the left and she's right in that conference room.
Does Millennium have more space? Because the preschool isn't there anymore. So is there more space at Millennium that isn't being utilized?
I think that she did take a walk down there, but I think she felt it was so isolated that she felt more comfortable being in the town hall where there were actually coworkers around to meet with. And so I don't think she felt that was really the best place for her. So.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Tom, you have something else?
Yes, just real quick, just because the mention of out of space for employees. Does this new building provide for future growth as well, or is it really just at our current levels.
It provides a little bit of space within the departments for future growth. So for example, we designed in for the facility space, staff for about 6, I think they could accommodate in that space, which they're not currently at. Similar for IT, I think they have space for maybe 1 or 2 other additional staff. But that's it. There's no extra space anywhere in the building to add another department.
Okay, I was actually looking at it as not. Yeah, I was looking at it for the ability that we would have that and not be, find ourselves 10 years down the road and looking to add another building somewhere. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's a great comment. Kind of similar to what Jody just mentioned about what's going on now with the wellness coordinator in town hall. We did add on the first floor of this new building is we added a conference room, kind of like a breakout space off of the main meeting room. And should this building get to that situation that they're currently in now in town hall, that could be a space that they could take over for future office space.
Jody, do you have something to add to that?
Yes, I think, Tom, I was asked years ago, and I was here when we enlarged somewhat the senior center and the town hall, and it's very tough because there's a lot of people that want to keep things as small as they can and the footprint as tight as they can. And I know Ellen was here, Ellen Rainville at the time, and several others, and we advocated for more space, but that was not what the will of the board. So we have a little bit more room, and I would say if push came to shove, the meeting room in the town hall could be subdivided into some offices, or with cubicles or something, but we're tight. All you got to do is walk by land use or Board of Health, but no one wants to go big. So it's kind of the struggle that we face. So I'm hoping we don't add a lot of new employees, but over the past couple of years, different boards have recommended to add sustainability and wellness, and I think they are vital, but I don't expect our existing departments to grow by leaps and bounds, over the next 20 plus years. So it's an issue.
Thanks. Tom, you all set? Okay, Hari?
Yeah, I will ask this question, a variation of what Tom has asked. So as I understand, we are cherry picking different departments from different buildings into the new building. I may know the answer, but do we see any savings or reduction in operating costs or capital costs by moving the departments into the new building? Which kind of, if we have that, the net cost of the building will be reduced by 12 million minus something, right? So did we do any analysis on that, saying how much cost savings we do by moving these departments into the net new building?
I could just say that we as a committee did not study that, but I believe Jody probably wants to answer.
Yeah,
that.
it looks like Jody has something to add to that one.
Yeah, that's not really what this is about, Hari. And no, I don't think this is a cost-saving measure. It's a measure to replace a training room that was taken away from the police department to build the dispatch area. If you remember, we didn't build a new room. We took over their 50, 60 person meeting room. But no, this is about providing adequate space to facilities that we already have. So again, selling the existing fire station will give some relief, but when you grow and you add new staff, you have to provide a place for them to sit and function. And if you've ever been to the fire station that the IT is in, it's pretty pathetic, honestly. And it's amazing we've done what we've done for 10, 15 years with them down there. So this is not really about saving costs. It's about providing people with suitable space to function.
Dennis?
And just a very short question. Dan, can you explain how this will be financed, please?
We do have a debt service presentation that we can get into, which Christina, you still want us to give that?
I do. I kind of like to get through the questions on the building first, Dennis, and then we're going to
Okay.
get into that after
That's
this,
good.
if you can
Fine.
hold.
That's fine.
Okay, thanks. Jody, do you have your hand up again? Okay, no. All right, Tom?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to second what Jody said was about the technology department. It is in a very old building. The kitchen was redone with, Band-Aids and duct tape type thing. There's one bathroom and there is stairs to get into that bathroom from wherever you are. So there is definitely an accessibility issue. It has been a known issue for a long time. So I definitely am not fighting this one. It's just, I just want to make sure the questions are asked.
Okay, thanks. I had a question. Oh, Ellen, I'll let you go. Did you have something?
Well, I was just going to provide some historical context. I remember the town meeting when we bought the Millennium School, and within 2 or 3 years, we were going to sell it for a profit. So that is a building, that absolutely owes us nothing. We've kept it and wrung every possible use out of it. But that was the idea, and that was what sold it at town meeting.
Thank you. Tom, I had a question on the HVAC system that was chosen. You had sent another sheet,
Yep.
I think earlier today or something, showing 3 different options.
Right.
Can you talk to why that one was chosen? Because unless I'm reading it incorrectly, it sort of looks like it's not exactly the most efficient option, but I don't know if I'm interpreting that chart correctly.
Sure. Dan, do you have that? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Dan.
So the GGD is the consultant working for our architect contacts, and so as part of their analysis, they were required to look at 3 different options for the building for the heating and cooling. So we looked at kind of a constant volume, as it states here, the heat pump system with those associated costs, and then a split system under option 2 with with the dedicated units, with the cost, with the capital cost for that. It was the least expensive. We were only focused on the 2 options 2 and options 3. And as you can see, the capital cost for option 3 was significantly more. And what we, which that didn't necessarily rule that out for us. But we were more focused on, kind of not necessarily taking the most expensive option, but something that we felt would serve this building long-term, provide energy efficiency, good payback. And, as you can see, under option 3, the estimated what the 20-year replacement cost would be for the chiller. And one of the concerns that was raised under option 2, which we went back and had our consultant look at, we wanted to make sure that, because we're looking at doing something very similar to what's in senior center, and what we wanted to make sure it was not going to happen was be 10 years down the road, like we were in the situation now with the senior center and facing a significant upgrade to that heating system. And we evaluated these options, talked it over with the energy committee. We, for the most part, we're all in agreement that this would be the most appropriate system for this project.
So I think maybe that's part of my misunderstanding. Which option are we going with?
Option 2.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Thank you. Okay, because option 1 was sort of highlighted in a color, even though it's
Oh,
gray.
yeah.
I
Well-
thought that was the option that we went with. Okay,
Well, the option one is basically, it's like the base, it's kind of like the baseline.
Gotcha.
So they were required to look at 3 different systems. And so that
Okay.
was kind of like the baseline.
okay,
And then the payback was analyzed based as compared to option one.
perfect. That makes so much more sense. Okay, question answered.
Thank you.
Thanks. If nobody has any other questions, I think we do have one from somebody in the audience if they still have their hand raised, but I'd like to get any other panelists' questions. Everybody all set? Okay, so Dan, how do we let Diane Wood ask her question?
And allow her to talk.
Thank you.
Diane, you there?
I'm there now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, everybody. Tom, thanks for the presentation. I may have missed it. Can you address how we are supporting the parking needs of the new 100 seat community room?
I'm sorry, supporting the what?
The new meeting room, the community meeting room.
I think she's asking about the parking lot.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, the parking needs. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I don't know if I used the word parking, but thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess the answer is that we're not, I don't know, Dan, do you have the slide, the site plan slide? Do you want to just throw that up real quick? We're not really adding any additional parking as part of this project to the town hall complex. There might be a couple of spaces, I think, that get added. Yeah, there you go. I think we're actually maybe adding 2 more spaces behind the building, but this is essentially, we're not going to be changing the existing parking that there is now. We did a study as part of this project, probably about 4 years ago, that looked at the parking needs for this building and what was available not only within the complex, but also in spaces directly adjacent to town hall, like on-street parking and other available spaces. And so the basic answer is that the study determined that we did not need to add any additional parking to the center, not so much to the town hall complex, but to the center. And then, and I see Jody's got her hand up, so I think I know what she's going to also add to this. So I'll let her add that.
Christina, am I okay?
Yes, go ahead, Jody.
Thank you. So I did want to add that the select board did recently approve adding 34 spaces to the town hall parking lot. And we are in development with that right now, and we will be bringing that to March town meeting. I'm hoping the cost is relatively small because we have mitigation from Newport Materials, but so that will help alleviate any parking congestion, and it helps with our new electric chargers that we have that have taken up some more parking spaces. Thank you.
And so those spaces will directly connect to these spaces that are shown on the site plan to the left, which are directly the left end. So that will connect in there. So you'll have one contiguous parking lot all the way from Town Hall to Road and Bush.
Thank you. And is the goal, hopefully, that those parking spaces will be done before the building will be done?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That's not part of this project, but
No,
would expect-
I understand it. And when I asked the question, it was a delayed reaction of that connection, from Town Hall to Rodenbush. So I appreciate the answer. We're just wondering about the timing of those spaces. That's all.
Yeah. Actually, if I could just quickly mention, I kind of flew through the presentation, but our schedule, assuming everything goes forward and we get the votes at town meeting and the ballot vote, that we expect to be out to bid this summer with construction, and assuming everything continues on schedule, optimistically, we would be into the new building by the end of 2024 or probably into early 2025. That's an optimistic schedule. Everybody can appreciate what going through as far as supply chain issues and equipment deliveries, things like that. But the parking, the additional parking lot, that gets approved at March town meeting, that should be fairly quickly and easily constructed and should be well ahead of the building construction.
Good. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. So if nobody has any more questions on the actual building, I'll let Dan and Christine do a quick debt presentation to show how we're going to pay for this.
Okay, we'll give the abridged version here. Share my screen. Okay, so Jody, Christine, and I had originally presented this presentation at the August 9th select board meeting. There have been some changes in assumptions, and we're going to jump right to those. So we looked at the median assessed value for a single family home, and it's expected to increase from 551,000 FY22 to 660,500 in FY23. Overall, the town as a whole, the assessed value is increasing by 12.4%. So that's a big change, and we wanted to update the figures with the latest information that we had. So moving on, just with Article 5 for the 51 Main Street building, we have an estimated total cost of the $12,010,000, and we're proposing to offset that cost for the debt exclusion with $1 million of free cash, similar to what we did with the Fletcher fire station. It would result in an annual debt payment of $781,000, but we want to emphasize that this project has not yet been bid, so these are just estimates at this point. As the numbers become more refined, we'll be sure to update the town manager's page and website. So on this slide, you can see that with the $660,000 median home, the average payment will be $81.59 in FY24 for the building. So over time, as the tax base grows, we're expecting that amount to go down each year because the cost of the debt is spread over more property in town. So, and just to talk about the library as well, because it's all connected with the overall debt picture. The cost of the library has been updated to $32.5 million. We're expected to fund it through the following options. Again, $23 million in excluded bonds, 7.85 from the state through a grant, $1.3 million from fundraising, and a small amount from CPA funds. The estimated annual debt payment is just over $1.6 million. And again, we don't have final numbers on this. They're just estimates, but we won't know those until we go out to bid. The average price on that new median assessed home at $660,500 is $158.61 beginning in FY27. We expect the construction to be complete, and we'll permanently bond it. So again, that cost will decline over time as the base in Westford grows. So I'm going to skip a couple slides and hand it over to Christine here.
Okay, so Dan covered a lot of the, I feel like I hear an echo. Dan covered a lot of the material. If you go to slide 11, you can see that the top line that says excluded debt, that's the debt that is already on the books. And you see in FY24, when all of these projects get paid off in 23, it would drop to approximately 1.5 million in FY24 if we don't do any new projects. With the addition of the center building at the $11.1 million price point, we're seeing $781,700 come in. And then in 2027, we're projecting 1.6 million for the library. What I do want to point out is go ahead to the next slide. If you look at this beautiful chart that Dan loves, you can see the lighter orange color is the fire station debt. And the fire station debt, when we took that on, we still had some years of the school buildings and some in the highway garage on the annual debt service cost. So in order to sort of ladder that new debt in, we asked them to structure the bond payments to be a little lighter in the beginning and then fill in toward the end. So you can see how that light orange bar kind of is small in the first few years. And then in the latter years, 2024, 25, you see it's taking up a larger chunk. When you look at the graph in 2027, you see where the library comes in and the chart kind of jumps up a little bit from 26 to 27. This is based on our projections. And when we do our projections, we always use level debt so that it just makes things a little simpler to compare apples to apples. But when in reality, when this project is bonded, we will bid it with some restrictions on the payback of the debt. We'll try to structure that debt, just like we did for the fire station, to eliminate that spike from 26 to 27. So that's kind of important to note. So then on the next page, you can see what Dan was mentioning about, this is showing the amount on a median value home of $660,500. In 2024, the new center building at $81.59, and in 2027, the library at $158.61. If we were to have the Blanchard roof at $3.5 million, and we have a placeholder in there for the school administration offices at about $5 million. In that project, we don't even have a feasibility study on. That is truly a placeholder. We have absolutely no idea, but we have $5 million as a placeholder. And then the contingency of $1 million so that we can kind of watch as these project costs may be refined. Then we can see it's about, you know, in fiscal year 24, $1 million is 6.75, goes down a little each year as the total assessed value goes up. The total of our debt service, even if all those projects for excluded debt on our tax bill for a $660,000 home in 2027, the highest year, would be about $400. Again, we'll probably smooth that out, but we can figure that it'll be between $300 and $400 on an average tax bill. Okay. I don't think there's too much else except that actually on the next slide, yeah. So one of the things Dan mentioned to the selectmen and at the strategic planning retreat was that, you know, we have a goal to try to continue to maintain our infrastructure so that we're not faced with a great big payday someday if we don't take care of things as we go along. And that goal is like 7 to 10% of our operating budget in debt service costs. And you can see on this slide that we're maintaining, you know, in that 6 to 7 to 6 to 6.5, and other debt is going to be coming on, you know, other non-excluded debt will be coming on that will help to fill that in as well. So that is all the changes.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Dan again. I appreciate Christine Collins' presentation there on that. Originally, you said it was 80. The average bill for this particular project was 81.5 or 0.6, and then there was a reference to a 158.6 impact on the tax bill. Can you just explain? I must have missed that little section.
Yep, no, that's fine. That's the right slide. So if you look at the new center building, the description of the project is on the far left column. So for FY24, the first year and the highest year, we're estimating $81.59 on a $660,000 home, median home value. The library, when it comes on in fiscal year 2027, and the first few years that you see the library there for FY24, 25, and 26, we're expecting that bill to take about 3 years. So we are estimating some short-term interest. So those first few years are the short-term interest on the building project cost as it goes along. But FY27, we're estimating that's when the bond will actually get issued. And that's showing the 158 based on the 23 million that we would be borrowing for the library project, unless the library folks are able to convince the state to give us more ARPA money for this project or to dedicate some ARPA money for library projects. Okay, does that answer your question, Dennis?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great.
I can see it now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So do we have any other questions? So I'm not seeing it. Oh, no, there we go. Tom.
Right, just more of a comment than a question. You know, every year we talk about reining in expenses and whatnot. And while both of these projects are certainly very valid and needed projects, that's $100 a year from this year to 27, if I'm reading that chart right, on an average household. I think we just need to be cognizant of that and the pushback that we might get from that, especially with inflation as it is. You know, we've all seen the news about the potential utilities and whatnot, and I just want to be aware of that and you know, make sure it's mentioned.
I think Tom's prudent.
Thanks. Hari?
Just a clarification, both 51 Main Street and library are funded through debt exclusion, not in the tax base.
That's what we're proposing, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I echo Tom's sentiment as well. The timing could not be worse, right? You just we are quiet for a long time and suddenly putting two debt exclusion projects in the special town meeting. I'm not really sure how we're going to face the town people saying that, okay, we're going to do these two big projects at once.
Well, I think it's important to remember that, yes, we're planning to do two new projects, but we have 3 schools in the highway garage falling off of excluded debt. This is coming in and replacing some debt that's falling off. And in 2022 and 23, that is the lowest amount of excluded debt that we have seen it all along, because the schools and the highway garage have been declining. You know, that was a declining debt schedule. So they were highest in it when they were brand new, and they were lowest in these last few years. If you look at the slide, Dan, could you pull up the slide that shows FY12 at $571 on an average home? So in FY12, when all of these loans were new, we were seeing on a average home a much higher amount. And sorry, Dan, could you go back one more slide to where it shows the, no, keep going. Yeah. So if you look here at excluded debt in FY12 was almost 6.6 million. And in FY23, it's 4.3 million. That's when everything was still on the books, and it's dropping down to 1.5 million in 24. So we're not proposing that we do this and on top of everything everyone's already paying, adding this in. We are trying to structure the debt so that we avoid spikes and instability, not only in the person's tax bill, but in the budget process. So really, this is a very good time to do these projects as these other projects are falling off.
I do get, again, it's not retort or anything like that. I'm just kind of creating a general conversation. I obviously don't know what's a healthy debt exclusion percentage as your town budget or our town budget. Have we compared what's an average debt exclusion percentage over the market basket towns we compare against, and see where do we stand? Or is that something that's not a thing?
That has not been researched. However, in Westford, we have been taking care of as much debt as we could under the levy. You'll see on I'm trying to see, is that on this slide? Yeah, these are the projects that are active right now that we are taking care of under the levy limit. So within the operating budget. And when it starts to be, you know, in the neighborhood of $11 million and $23 million, there's just no way to do those projects within the operating budget. So that's why they would become a debt exclusion.
Okay. One more question. I should have known this being FinCom for a long time, but is there a thing that's you can partially fund a project using debt exclusion and partially fund under the tax levy?
Don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
I don't see why not, but I would have to look into that. Dan or Jody, do you know?
That would require an
Yes,
override.
can structure it however we want the bonds, but it's our recommendation to go forward with the debt exclusion. That's why we offset with $1 million in free cash. The room under the levy limit is tight, so we don't recommend borrowing these projects within the levy limit.
Jody, do you have anything to add to this? You've had your hand up.
Of course I do. So, I know this is a lot of material, but honestly, what we've tried to bring this building forward for the last several years, and we were told to hold off a few times for different reasons. And of course, the building gets more and more expensive every time we hold off. I think it was around 9 million when we were going to bring this a couple years ago. And of course, now after the pandemic, we're up to 12 million. So I guess what I would say is, I think we've done a really good job of keeping things manageable. Christine has done a remarkable job of keeping the debt payments kind of at a stable rate. So you haven't seen any peaks and valleys. But just as you have to do in your home, you have to reinvest, you have to put a roof on your home or replace the windows or the furnace or whatever. And, we're a town, we have to replace our infrastructure. We have a old fire station that's been sitting next to the town hall for three plus years now that, is dilapidated. So, I think we've done a great job, and I realize I feel like I'm also patting myself on the back, but if the taxpayers don't want to fund these projects, then they shouldn't fund them. But the grant came in on the library at the same exact time as this building, and so we don't really have a choice. But I do think I will commit that we will do everything we can to keep the burden on the taxpayer as level as possible, and recognize we are below the recommended amount for debt right now, and it will continue to get lower. And that's showing we're not reinvesting in our town. And actually that can threaten our bond rating, which is the highest we can get. But if we don't reinvest in our town or our future, that will go down. So one more statement, I have tried to keep everything within the limit that I've been able to, including the $8 million Oak Hill, project that we've been working on. But these two projects we cannot keep within the limit. That will tie our hands to keep up our other infrastructure. So, but I really want to thank Christine and Dan for all their efforts, and I think these projects are worth it, and I hope that the public, agrees. So thank you.
Thanks, Jody. So I'd kind of like to try to wrap this up. Jake, you've had your hand up for a while, so I'm going to let you ask your question.
No, I think communication and how we package this is going to be really critical for whether this is successful or not at special town meeting. And I think the points that Jody just raised is what's really going to resonate. It's the fact that the project cost has increased $3 million over just a few number of years, and that trend would continue if we continue to hold on the project itself. It's the cumulative effect. So you have debt burden that's dropping off of people's, that's dropping off in terms of what they will need to pay. And that allows for the bucket to fill back up with these new projects. And it's the funding that we're getting to offset some of the cost initially. So I think there are a few really key highlights that are going to be critical to communicate in a few weeks in order to get these across the finish line. There will be hesitation because they are big dollar signs, but I think if it's messaged appropriately, it makes it more palatable.
Thanks. So I'm going to do Dennis and then Ellen, and then I think we'll go for a vote.
Okay.
Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you. So first of all, preface my remarks by saying that Tom and Harry made very good points about the backdrop of this thing. And I think it's very good for us all to keep those in mind. I know I am. That being said, I'm inclined to support this because there are some compelling arguments that I see. Number one, I see the protection of the IT capabilities of the town as being absolutely critical. If in fact that system is damaged because of the poor conditions that it's operating under now, the costs are going to be very significant, and the obstruction and disruption in business will be significant. So I think that's one compelling reason for doing this. The second thing is that I think that the having spent time in meetings in the current office space, it does not provide a conducive environment for a good exchange of government business by the citizens. By expanding that meeting room, more people will be able to come, more people will participate, more people will be able to engage in a more comfortable environment than currently exists up there now as well. And then the third thing is, I think the police department has a legitimate need for a training room. We deprived them of that in order to be able to expand a communication system that was necessary. But at the same time, we need to replace that critical component of their operations, which is the training. So for those three reasons, plus along with the fact that the debt tails off, and there are other things coming off, as Christine just explained, I am certainly willing to support this.
Thanks for that comment, Dennis. Ellen?
So I just want to bracket the other end of what Jody was saying. We tried not to have our project come forward the last few years. We expected that we would get grant notification in July of 2023 or 2024. And the opening of capital monies at the state level from the Division of Administration and Finance caused us to be coming before you a year early. But most critically, I need to say there is a deadline by which we must let the Board of Library Commissioners know that our municipality has voted to fund this project. It's January 9th, 2023. So we have to put it before the voters now. We have a $7.851 million grant that we may be able to reclaim for our community. That's our tax money. We don't go to the bottom of the list. We don't,
Hey, Ellen, I'm sorry. Can I just so we're just going to be voting on 51 Main Street. Could you hold that comment for the library expansion article?
Surely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so seeing no other questions, can I call for a vote? Would somebody like to recommend Article 5?
Yeah, I'll move that we support Article 5.
I second it.
Second. Okay, so I'll do a roll call. Hari?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Beth?
Hi.
Jake?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you so much, Tom, for your input. Christine, Dan, everyone, thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you all. Appreciate the support.
Thanks. Okay, let's move on to Article 1, approve unpaid bills from previous fiscal years. Dan, is that you?
Yeah, we're just looking for a motion to dismiss because we don't have any unpaid bills.
Perfect. Can I get a motion to recommend a dismissal of that article?
So moved.
I guess second.
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 Thank you. Hari?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that passes. Thank you. Okay, Article 2, approve fiscal year 23 budget adjustments. Dan?
Yeah, Christine, I'm happy to run through all of these. And if there are any more technical questions, we do have some department heads in the audience that could help us.
Perfect.
So I might put the screen up for this
Yeah.
one.
Thanks.
Great. Okay, we're starting with the Finance Committee, 37,265, and this is to basically bring the fund balance back up to 125,000. FinCom did appropriate funding for the library cost estimation and the search for a new town manager. So we want to make sure we have plenty of funds going throughout the rest of the year. The assessors, they're requesting 7,500 for an appraisal report. It's actually for the Westford Regency. They're disputing the assessed value of the hotel, and we need to hire a consultant to help dispute that moving forward. Town clerk, we now have to pay for postage for mail-in voting. There's 3 elections this year, so we're estimating 10,500 for that new cost. And also we have the November 8th election, which we have to print a special ballot, which costs about $5,600 as well. In the police department for personal services, we have 5 officers obtaining their master's degree. So they get a bump in pay when that occurs. So that's about just under $15,000 for that. And also the police have mandated additional training from the state. They're going from 4 days to 5 days. So we're estimating that cost of about $16,700. For the police department expenses, there's a new software that the police need that they're working with IT to implement. It's for policy management software. It's called PMAM or PMAM. It's going to help them with accreditation and post-C requirements. Fire department, we had a lot of vacancies to start the year. This is basically to help pay for overtime costs that were incurred. We are hiring people, firefighters that are currently on their way to being employed with the town. So we hope that the overtime comes down in the future. We're just paying for normal coverage. Similar weights and measures, the state no longer is providing services for us. We had a contract for $3,000 a year going back to when I started back in 2005, and that price never changed. So Jody and Eric actually reached out to NIMCOG. They can provide half the year for $7,700. So since we had a 3,000 budget, we just need 4,700 here. For the full year next year, you'll see in the operating budget, it's going to be about 15,400 for the entire year for those services, which we need to do according to the state. Westford Public Schools requesting 76,500. There's 3 things they're trying to accomplish here. First is decodable text for all the elementary schools. And then they also want to provide a unified district-wide curriculum for our growing ELL student population. And then with any remaining funds, they want to put projectors in some of the elementary gyms. Recycling, we're requesting 40,000. So this is a big question mark as usual with recycling. The commodities for the recyclable, when they sell them, they go up and down. But right now they're going up because the paper market crashed. Eric let me know yesterday that I think we have an invoice for $7,000 to pay for the tipping fees, basically, where the previous month we had actually been receiving money. The other part of this is that we're currently being charged a gas surcharge. So that's about $2,000 per month that they charge us between July and September. And lastly, with the $40,000, it's to buy some small equipment, including IV pumps and powered suction units and mannequins for the fire department.
Okay. Anyone have any questions on those? Let's see.
Quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Harry.
141 assessor's expenses, we want to hire a consultant for $7,500. How much was the dispute money?
Will you out there?
I saw him.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Will Nacer, Chief Assessor. So the dispute, the reason that we're getting the appraisal report is we have a couple of years that are appealed. So the values are between 9. We have the values at about 10 million, and the taxpayer thinks it's about 4 million.
That's a huge, yes. Okay, at least I get a scale of the investment, right? I see it as if we spend 7,500, how much is the potential to get back, right?
Right. So
And
you're talking, 35, 40, $50,000 on a give back. So if we're spending 7,500 to fortify our position, that's worth the money to spend.
I agree with you on that.
Thanks for that. Anybody else? Okay, I'm not seeing anything else. Can I get a motion to recommend Article 2?
I move
Thanks.
the motion to recommend Article 2.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thanks. Okay, so roll call, Hari,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so that passes. Thank you, everyone. Article 3, approve FY23 budget transfers.
Yep, so this is, we're moving 12,600 from the public buildings personal services to accounting. When Jeff Goodwin was promoted, he proposed a reorganization, which the select board and management agreed to. Essentially, he's not hiring an assistant, but rather delegated responsibilities to a number of other people. Pam Floric on the town side, she works in the finance and accounting office. She was going to take over all the requisitions and the accounts payable for the department to help them out. This will move her to full-time.
Okay, any questions on that? No. Tom?
Just to be clear, any change in benefits level by moving someone to full-time?
Nope, she's already benefit eligible.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to recommend Article 3?
So moved.
Thanks. A second?
Second.
Thanks. Okay, and by roll call, Hari,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes. Thank you. Article 4, fiscal 23 capital appropriations. Dan, can you walk us through these?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So for the assessors, we are requesting $32,317 for an electric vehicle. Right now, the assessing department is using their own car, especially the assistant assessor who's using his own vehicle to go out and inspect properties. The public buildings, the $40,000, that's to build a fence and cut back trees on the property line between the police station and 4 Lincoln Street. Basically, the trees are getting sap all over the vehicles that are parked across that property line, and nobody wants to park there because it's damaging the vehicles. So this would solve that problem. Eric had mentioned that this is not a final bid. If funding is approved, we will go out to bid and seek alternate quotes to see if we can get that price down. For building, their vehicle is a 2008 Ford Escape. They can't drive it anymore. It's rusted out underneath, and the mechanic said it's not safe to drive. This will replace that vehicle with a hybrid vehicle. For engineering, we have $125,000 for the Beaverbrook Bridge construction services, which again is a TIF project coming along. We have Paul here for any detailed questions. And again, down here, we have $195,000 for the Boston Road Design Amendment. Again, we have Paul here for any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions on any of those? Jake?
This is more out of ignorance, but is it typical for a town assessor to have a town vehicle versus using their own and getting like reimbursed for mileage?
Anybody answer that?
Yeah. So I would say I've worked in 4 other communities, and it's kind of a mix. Some communities do provide a vehicle. My thought is that it's you're on town business, just like the conservation folks, just like the health folks. You're out there. I think we look better. We look more professional when we pull up in a town vehicle. And it's easily recognized. So that would be my thought is, so it's kind of a mix that, to answer your question.
Yeah, understood. Thanks.
Dennis?
Yeah, Chris, I'd like to propose that we separate the engineering department request for the Boston Road design from the other requests. I'm prepared to support these other ones, but I'd like a little discussion on this Boston Road design. So I'm just offering that.
Okay. Somebody can certainly make a motion
I'd move
just
it.
to approve the top portion.
I'm moving that we approve assessors, public buildings, building and engineering, the top four.
Dan,
Yeah,
are we okay doing this?
Yeah, that's fine. But just a quick note, we are eligible for a $7,000 credit for the assessor's vehicle because it's fully electric. I forgot to mention that. So just throw that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to know. Does anyone have any other questions on the first? Is it? I can't see the whole thing. So is it called the first motion, or is it all part of the first motion?
I'm sorry, I rose my hand later.
Okay.
So if we get $7,005 rebate on assessor's vehicle, that brings down to $25,000, right? So if we do the same thing for the building vehicle, we'll buy an electric car instead of hybrid car. Can we do that?
It's not eligible. The building one's not eligible because it's a hybrid, so it doesn't get the state credit.
Yeah, what I'm asking is, can we buy electric vehicle instead of hybrid vehicle for building?
Yeah, I think what we were told at Capitol is that the vehicle for their needs won't be met with an electric.
Okay.
I can't elaborate more on that. That's just what I remember them telling. But if Dan remembers more details.
Yeah, they're traveling in construction zones all the time, so they need something with more lift, so they don't bottom out. So they need a truck or an SUV, and they weren't available electric.
Got it.
Okay. Dennis, did you have anything else or?
No, I'm fine. I just want to separate that. That's all. And,
okay, so I believe Dennis made a motion to recommend those first four, the assessors, the public buildings, the building, and the engineering. So do I have a second on that motion?
Second that.
Okay, so we'll take a roll call on just just recommending those first four. Hari?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So let's go down to the second part of this. And Dennis, I assume you have a comment or a question.
I would like, I'm gonna make Paul Starrett work a little bit here. I'd like him to give me a explanation as to what is the justification for this road design. I've heard a lot of information about it. The fact that there's gonna be an island in the middle of it. I'm trying to find out what problem this is trying to solve. So I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Sure. Thank you, Christina and Dennis, for the question. The project, which we began design 5 years ago and have another year to go, began because the water department needs to replace a water pipe. And even before we had a DPW, the town manager's office challenged the water department to work with the highway department and the engineering department to consolidate our projects, which we did in this case because we're going to go out and dig up Boston Road and have police details out there and disrupt traffic. And then we're going to pave the road over to do the water main. So it begged the question, should we also, since we're digging up our road, disrupting all the traffic, having all the police details out there, should we also address our stormwater issues and provide for improved pedestrian accommodations? And that was the development of the project, Dennis. And then we got to a point working with our regional planners At NEMCOG, we found an opportunity to get the state to pay for the what's near approaching $12 million in construction to pay for the construction part of the project. So the town's obligation, as with all TIP projects, is the design component, which is this $195 will bring that just around 4% of the total project cost.
And that's the extent of the town's commitment?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're,
So there hasn't been any finalized plan, I take it, right?
oh yeah, we've submitted our 75%. We've gotten comments back from Mass DOT, from the select board and the public at large. We've addressed those comments and they're looking at the 100% plans now, and we'll go into plan specifications and the final construction estimates even as we speak.
Okay. The one last question. Does the new design decrease the actual travel width of the roadways?
Well, it's a trick question. The pavement, no, but the line striping, yes. So it'll have the illusion of being narrower, especially with bike lanes, painted bike lanes at the request of the select board. So it'll have that appearance, but in fact, we will have an increased amount of pavement because of the bike lanes. Which I can tell you, public safety is excited about that, so.
It's gonna be a divider as well?
No, we had, one of the design concepts included a raised median at the Crown Road area and up by the PCA, in one other location around the curve, but it was decided through a series of public meetings and meetings with the select board that flush, more cobblestone style islands, if you were, but not raised,
Okay.
would be more appropriate.
All right. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
Great. Does anybody else have any other questions on this? I'm not seeing anything. Can I get a motion to recommend this portion of Article 4?
I recommend.
So moved.
Okay, one of you can take the second on that, I guess. Okay. Hari,
Yeah, aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
Dennis,
Oh, you just sold me. Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, Article 6. Funding for the JV Fletcher Library expansion. Ellen, thank you so much.
So what's the pleasure of the committee? Do you want to see pictures or do you want to hear an overview of where we are at this point? I can talk budget with you. I can show you the 6-minute, 10-second PowerPoint that I sent to Dan, but I see where you are on your agenda timing. So if you would prefer that I give you an overview of how we got here, the first town meeting vote on the Mass Public Library construction project grant was March of 2012. So we've been working more than 10 years on this. The town has voted at 4 different town meetings to go ahead and match funding of a planning and design grant that was awarded us from the Board of Library Commissioners. That's been 2014 to 20.
Ellen, I think what might be helpful is to give more of a snapshot of where we are currently.
Okay.
I feel like most of us have probably heard the history
background
leading up in the background.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe just dive into that. Thank you.
So we are on an accelerated timeline because we received our grant notice 1 year early. We anticipated that we would be notified of a provisional grant in July of 2023. This board and the library trustees together have funded adequate funds, and there was $10,000 at the June annual town meeting for cost estimating. By the time we had our contracts amended from the planning and design grant, we've had about 60 days to do cost estimating on a building of 35,000 square feet and work with the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee on sustainability and new energy initiatives. That's been included in the new cost. So the cost estimators, we believed that we would have a 2020 project cost of $21.4 million. Our new project cost has come in at $32.5 million. We are not alone in this. There are 12 waitlisted libraries concluding this program this year and next year, and 3 libraries currently under construction. That would be Greenfield, Marlborough, and Melrose. All have seen significant increases in their costs. So we have reached out to the Ways and Means Committee and our legislators. And to my knowledge, as of today's meeting with the Board of Library Commissioners, more than 1,400 emails have gone out requesting that ARPA funds come from the state to help relieve this shortfall that all of the waitlisted libraries are seeing. That we are hoping will come out in the supplemental budget, which would be released typically in October. But there's no guarantee of that. We don't know what the amount might be. And under the guidelines of this grant, the votership in town has got to vote the full project number at town meeting, and 2/3 are needed to approve that project. And then at the local election on November 8th, there has to be a debt exclusion vote with a majority. So we have a project where we don't have a sliding grant as a portion of the total cost. We get 7.851 million no matter what. We don't return to the bottom of the list if our community doesn't approve this. We have until January 9th. And if we don't get the voters' approvals, then we have our current non-compliant, non-fire suppressed, crowded, and at times non-workable library.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Does anyone have any questions for Ellen?
Yeah, I do.
Dennis, go ahead.
Okay, hi, Ellen. I have a couple of questions. First of all, can you tell me what the current square footage of the existing library is right now?
Yes, so the current library is 22,465. The renovated and added on library is 35,159. So it's a little more than a 50% increase. And it is a 3-story addition on the back. That is the width of the current library. The back looks modern. The front library facade stays historic and Victorian on the common. The mezzanine does come out, Dennis. So the original 1895 blueprints, which we have at the library, showed a mezzanine that wasn't built until 1969, but that mezzanine does come out, and we return to the original 3 stories that were in the Victorian building.
And the last question I have for you is in your presentation, the building of 21st Century Library, which was very informative. There's a section called usage, which is FY22, and you've tallied the number of card holders, the daily checkouts, days open, all these types of functions that you serve there. And the question I have is what's the impact of the current situation on your current service as far as these particular functions are concerned? What is there a restriction on them, or what's the issue with it?
So I think the facility has the most restrictions. We don't, as you know from one slide, there's not a gurney compliant elevator. We have what would not be typical, not be up to code stairwells at this point. No, we are managing pre-COVID. We averaged 770 people a day for 314 days a year. Our service week actually will have to increase to 59 hours a week when the town surpasses 25,000 population. So we are serving the community, but we have a much too small children's room. We have some unsafe conditions. We don't have a family-friendly library in terms of having either a restroom on every floor or a restroom where you, your stroller, and your infant and toddler can all manage to get into a restroom together. So this is a chance for us to be more service-oriented.
Now, the one last question I have is that of the space, I went through the diagrams, and over 5,000 square feet are dedicated to conference areas and study rooms. And I just wanted to find out what's driving that particular need, and how does that comport with your ability to be able to make the building conform?
So we have typically turned away 33 meeting room requests a month. So we add 2 conference rooms on the 3rd floor. We retain the Mary Atwood as a conference room and the ground floor meeting room, which can be used after hours when the library is closed. So we know that the use exists in this community because free meeting space has really disappeared over time. You know, it used to be churches gave free meeting space. It used to be the Scouts could meet certain places. So this is no longer true. We're one of the few free meeting spaces in town. The study rooms are not only for students, tutorials, but business people who want to work during the day at a place that isn't their home or isn't their kitchen island. The Board of Library Commissioners consultants tell us is one of the most sought after uses for new library space. And our community survey and our strategic plan that we conducted during the course of these 10 years underscores that as well.
Thank you.
Jake?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen, for the presentation. You had mentioned that the state is reviewing requests for additional funding, and they will come out with that list sometime in October. Do we know if that's going to be before special town meeting or not?
So I doubt that, and it's actually been libraries, true to our mission. We have all banded together and we've asked the Ways and Means Committee chairs, the Library Legislative Caucus, and all of our legislators to free up. There's $3.3 billion of ARPA funds yet to be spent. However, there's not an immediate deadline on spending that at the state level, so there's no leverage there to ask them to work on that quickly. But I will say that the libraries that are impacted in this grant round, and as I say, there are now 15 of us talking to our legislators, span all the way from Amherst to Swansea to Seekonk. They span the entire state. And so we are hopeful that they will come through with some funding. I wish I could tell you that that was a guarantee and that we had anything other than conversations and good vibes from our chairs, but I can't tell you that.
And do you have a sense of relative project costs in library builds in those other towns versus the one you're developing here in Westford?
We have a complete spreadsheet. We're very close to the cost of Sharon, very close to the cost of Westboro. And many of us are seeing a 52.7% increase in project cost, a 56% increase in project cost, a 51% increase. So it depends on the state of the original building and how big it's being built. But regrettably, we are right in there in line with these other projects that are seeing, 50% or more increase in their costs.
So,
Thanks. Tom?
Somewhat to mirror Ms. Wood's comments about the municipal building, what are the impacts on parking for the library? If you're increasing by 50% square footage, maybe we're looking at a 20% increased usage, and I know that parking lot is full very often. And then somewhat related, the driveway, is there any site plan improvements? Because I know that driveway is actually fairly dangerous to get in and out of. It's about 1.5 cars wide, and coming right off Main Street, you don't always have an option, so.
So there definitely is more parking, and this is because in the 1988 renovation and addition, we were still on a sewage treatment, a septic system. That was before we tied into the town sewage treatment system. So there is a leaching field that will now be filled in and can be asphalted over. So we do end up with 79 parking spaces, and the parking in front of the library on Main Street. At some point, that driveway could be widened if we take down the trees, but we haven't discussed that, but everyone is completely aware of the problem with the driveway. And our goal for a couple of years has been to remark the library parking lot to make it one way. So, and relocate the drive-through book drop so it's on the driver's side, and then be sure that there's not this cross current of traffic right around the book drop and the rear door. So there's also a possibility, but it's no one's favorite possibility. There is 2.5 acres behind the library. There's quite an elevation drop. That land actually is under the select board's custody, and NIMCOG did do a plan showing additional parking down that portion of the land that isn't wet, but it's not ideal. It's not safe. I think the town would need to feel that it was completely desperate for parking before it pursued that. And it's not part of the project costs that we've submitted. We have not included that.
So Ellen, I have a question on the parking. You said that there'll be 79 spaces. What do you have currently?
64.
Okay. So 15 spaces. That's not bad. You also had mentioned the additional meeting space. Will that be available to any local group, or how would that be handled?
The trustee policy, yes, is that any nonprofit, non-commercial group can book the meeting room as long as there is a local resident doing the booking. And there's history behind that, but this is to really protect the community. So yes, and the design allows us to close off the rest of the library. This is true at the moment, so that that meeting room can be used after 9 p.m. We're open till 9 p.m. 4 nights a week, but this allows it to be used with the bathrooms available and egress at the end of a meeting. And then we've typically left our lights on until 11 p.m. in the parking lot. So that would be available to the public to use.
Okay. And I had a final question on the spreadsheet that you had sent, that last tab, the energy enhancements. Can you speak to that at all? Because I wasn't entirely sure what I was looking at and what those numbers really represented.
So those numbers represent real costs garnered from other libraries of like size. However, the list that I sent on the email are all of the things that we're looking at with the sustainability committee: the triple panes, the additional insulation, window overhangs, occupancy controls, low usage plumbing, and separate ventilation. That's something that COVID taught us that we need, is not to have ventilation in the HVAC system, which is what we have now. So, we're concerned. This is the best we could do in 60 days. We're concerned that we may be like some library renovation additions, where what you can do in the old building isn't quite as aggressive as what you can do in the new building, but we don't know that quite yet. The reality is, with this addition, we will have wrapped almost all of the original Victorian building in new additions. So, we have the ability to do some better interior insulation in some of the existing building.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? There aren't any other questions. Can I get a motion to recommend Article 6?
Motion to recommend Article 6.
Thanks, Beth. Need a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jake. Okay.
Discussion.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, first of all, let me say my comments. I want to just recognize Ellen. Ellen is probably one of the most conscientious and capable department managers in town. So my remarks are certainly not directed at her. She's done a great job over the years, and I can learn a lot from watching her. I'll tell you that. But here's the issue I have with this. We're talking about somewhere in the order of about 5,000 square footage of conference space, which is going to have to be heated and lighted. There is I think you've seen the tax impact. We're talking here in FY 2007, we combined, if we're talking about the center building, 400 annual impact on the tax bill. There is also, and I want you all to remember, we also took a little bit of a risk with the full-time day kindergarten. That's also operating at the same time that this is going on, and it's all predicated on the fact that our town population goes down. If it does not go down, there's going to be a pressure to impact teacher salaries to be able to compensate for the increase that we put through. I think Tom and Harry hit the issues in the beginning when they said that this is a very difficult financial time. Timing is everything, and I think that I'm not compelled, but I'm not moved by the unfunded mandates. That's the state is always putting unfunded mandates on us from across every board we've got. So I think I am having a real problem. I don't think I can support this at this time. And I just wanted to make my position clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Any other discussion before we take a vote? Okay, so I'll do a roll call.
I know
no,
I'm
Harry?
hesitantly raising my hand. Sorry about that. So all of my conversation comes from the sticker shock. It's in no way undermining the hard work done by a lot of people, including you, Ellen, and Jody, and Dan, Christine. So I don't know how to put this, but we are adding about 10,000 square feet for an additional $32 million. Comes to about like $3,000 a square foot. What I'm trying to say is, again, it's me trying to figure out what makes sense here, right? Explain a little bit about, are we going for a Cadillac plan, or are we going for a Corolla plan? Or so I know I'm a little late in asking that question, but I'm hesitating myself how to present or how to ask this question in a correct way, right? So explain in a way that it is the least costliest way to get ourselves into compliance. That's what I'm looking for.
Ellen, do you have comments to that?
So I think I should explain some of the square footage that is being replaced. So every single stairwell in the library has got to be removed and replaced. The elevator has got to be removed, the pit refilled, and a new elevator drilled and replaced. 2 of the floor plates on the east side of the library, one is ramped up in the children's room, the other is ramped down in the meeting room. Those will become level, which means we'll have the result of a much more versatile and flexible building in the future. So there really is very much a gut job here, and that is why it's so costly, because we don't have any compliant stairwells, we have no fire suppression, we don't have a compliant elevator, we have a building that can be made more versatile and can carry us into the future, but that's not the building we have now. So it's not just a renovation I mean, it's not just an addition, you know, it's all of the critical renovation that has to happen in the old building.
Hari, are you all set with your discussion?
Well, I understand all the logical and feature set of it, right? But I still don't know how that makes a leap to $3,000 a square foot. So I'm missing the connection. And yeah, again, at this point, there is not necessarily have to have 100% match for the response. I understand that Ellen response is fits what I questioned, but probably not. I did not get fully answered about my questions. And it should be what it is. There is no other information.
Okay, Tom?
I think this is one of those cases where, unfortunately, the cost of brand new construction is less than proper renovation of a historic building. Would I like to see that price lower? Of course. But I also know that, actually, the funny thing is, when I first looked at the renderings, I thought that the backside images were the street side. And I said, oh, there's no way the town would go for this. So I think that it's going to be an interesting sell. I would venture to say that some of these price estimations are worst case, you know, because anytime you do start to touch old, you don't know what you're going to get into and how it's all going to tie in. So I too am a little sticker shocked, but I also think that so a facilities manager that I worked with for a while used to say, poor people can't afford to go cheap, right? We're better off in the 25-year, 30-year life expectancy of this addition to spend the money now and do it right, rather than get 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and have to deal with leaks because the addition wasn't put onto the wasn't married to the existing properly. So and I also know from experience that even just fire suppression in an old building is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Never mind, you know, trying to do it properly to make sure not to minimize the damage to the resources that are in the library. So yeah, so I too am torn on the sticker shock, but I also think that the long-term sticker shock of cutting corners is going to be worse.
Thanks, Tom. Ellen, did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to remind, well, first of all, your sticker shock is shared by me. I oversaw the last edition. It cost $2.28 million in 1988, and we gave back $11,000 to the town. So I am with you on the sticker shock. The town's portion should be 21.4 or less if we get ARPA funds. But I do want to just remind you that this budget includes moving offsite for 2 full years, storing some books, moving our fine arts collections, our Willard clock, our statuary, our antique samplers into fine arts storage. So this is more than, so some of your square footage calculation actually is about the interim operating costs that will be needed when we move off. So I just want to remind you of that. There's some other factors in those budgets.
Thank you for
So
that.
do you know where the temporary location is?
I have an estimate, but no,
Okay.
it will depend on what's available, but there is an estimate for all those numbers.
Okay.
It'd
All
be
of
great
in
if the
town?
school feasibility happened at the same time.
Right. We had our collection looked at, we've gotten storage costs, we've gotten moving costs, and it's all very sobering.
Any other points of discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will take a roll call. Hari,
I know it will be my first time, but I'm going to say this begrudgingly, yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
Dennis,
Nay.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So it passes.
Thank you all so much. And I will see you at town meeting, okay?
Thank you, Ellen, for putting
Thank you,
us with
Ellen.
me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go on to Article 7.
All right, so Article 7 is asking that we apply $150,000 from recreation retained earnings to offset the FY23 budget. Just a little background. The revenue estimate for recreation was $1,247,000 and change. The town earned just under $930,000 in FY22. The Department of Revenue does not allow us to have a revenue projection that's higher than the previous year. So we have to fund that gap, which is $317,128. The select board at the last meeting did appropriate the $167,128 to from ARPA funding to bridge that gap because the revenue shortfall was due to COVID. They were earning much more prior to COVID, and they are building back up the after-school program. However, we do have to appropriate $150,000 to balance the budget, and so we can set a tax rate this year.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I'm going to go first on this one. Dan, what's the rec enterprise balance?
The retained earnings were just certified at $519,000.
And that's before this 150, obviously.
Yes, so this
Okay.
150 will come from that balance.
Okay. So I have a lot of concerns about this. I understand that we have to do it to set the tax rate. I get that. But this is the third time we're doing this. The first two, I have no problem with. We're in the throes of the pandemic. We got, kind of thrown into deep water. So, but now the third time, it's feeling like there needs to be some changes in either the revenue projections or expenses or something going forward in FY24 so that we're not here again next fall. And I'm also hearing that the rec department is having, some issues with staffing. And so I'm just getting a little concerned. And I see Jody has her hand up. I'm just going to get to, because I do actually sort of have a question, and what is being done in the development of the FY24 budget so that we're not here again in a year from now. And if you want, I will leave that to Jody, Dan, if you think she can answer. Okay, go ahead, Jody.
Thank you, Dan, for your faith in me. So it's funny, Christina, because actually I had the same conversation with Dan several weeks ago when he brought me the question of this. And one of the things I said is that we first of all, you don't know this maybe, but we have been making changes. As a matter of fact, we eliminated a position, an office manager in that department, which is, a big deal. And we also, as you know, we took away some of the things that weren't affecting the enterprise, but I took grounds and maintenance and parks and gave it to DPW. But we are making changes. We have done some program reduction. We want to provide after-school programs and recreation programs for our residents. Many towns do not have a recreation enterprise. They just provide this, just like Council on Aging services or youth services or whatever. But in our town, we've always had this. So we are cognizant that times may have changed. There may be parents that are working at home now that don't need that care. And so you will see changes as the budget comes forward. with the rec department. And so I agree with you. We want to make sure we're reacting to the changes that have occurred. But there is a need too, and we want to support our residents, so.
Sure, no, I want to support the residents. I just want to do it in an appropriate manner so that we're not supplementing the budget every time going forward. You know, maybe there's a change, like you said, maybe parents are home more, maybe there needs to be a shift in programming or something, but thank you for looking into that, Jody.
Well, and let me just say that since I've been here, we have supplemented that budget, I believe, every year, and that's a policy decision by the select board. So we have not, they have never told me that needs to be revenue neutral.
Right,
no.
true.
So anyway, it is a service that we do provide, but that's a discussion for the budget coming up. But I want you to know we are making changes. We have been making changes, and we understand what your questions are, and I feel the same. We need to take action. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else have any questions? Not seeing anything. Can I get a motion to recommend?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. And roll call, Hari,
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so we are at our 8:05 agenda item. It's running a little behind schedule. So we're gonna, this is to review the proposed FY24 budget policy direction. So everyone get a chance to take a look at that. Any comments?
I'll move that we accept it.
I'm not sure.
I don't think they're voting on this, right?
Yeah, I think this is going to go before the select board coming up for them to approve. Jody?
Yes, so this is the select board's budget policy direction, whatever we call it, and you typically give them your input, and then they, I think, usually have accepted that, but they will be reviewing it next Tuesday.
Okay.
So it is their direction to me on how to structure the fiscal year 24 budget.
Okay, thanks. Tom?
The appropriate time to raise it, but one thing that I would like to see to help to, at least in my mind, improve transparency on true cost of government is an accounting of how much is accounted for in fee collection. So the one that comes to mind is always the big one of the schools. You know, how much do they collect in bus fees, how much activities fees, sports fees, those things, and how much of the budget is actually supported by additional fees over the tax rate. So that's just something that I think it has been asked going back as many years as I've gone to town meeting, is what is the true cost per student? So I would like to see that. And you know, same thing for building, you know, how much are they accounting for anticipating getting in? So
Jody, did you have, no, okay, hand went down.
Yeah, so Tom, I'm sure you know by charter, I have no control over the school budget, and I basically give them their number. So if the finance committee is asking the schools for something that they don't usually provide, and they do usually provide all the fee information, but you really need to send that to the school committee asking for that. But when Dan does his revenue presentation to all of you, we show all the fees the town collects, you know, across the board. So, but if you want something more from the schools, I think you need to ask them directly.
okay, yeah, and I wouldn't mind seeing it just to make sure fairness across all departments. If, you know, like I said, building is collecting a bunch of fees, I know that. So, and if it's in the revenue report, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think that the school budget has gotten better, probably in the last year, maybe 2 years, on showing those offsets a little more clearly with the fees. So hopefully that will continue. Jody, do you have anything else to add? No. Okay. I think my only comment is I would like the select board to just take into consideration the sustainability coordinator position. I know that's being paid for under a grant this year. I'm not seeing that in a specific directive here, but I would hope that this position could be continued, even if it's on a part-time basis into FY24. Personally, I see a lot of value in this position, not just environmental sustainability, but financial as well. If we've got somebody who can be applying for grants, we have an expert in-house to take advantage of, more efficient vehicles, HVAC systems, solar, et cetera. I think we could see some savings in the long run. Jody?
Yes, so it is my intention to attempt to fund that for 24. Actually, I think Carlisle has recently told us they would like it to go 70-30, meaning 70% Westford, 30% Carlisle, but we do have the grant, and so we'll factor that in, but that, I'm not sure you need to put that in here, but that is, that is my my goal too, so.
Okay,
yeah.
great. No, we don't need to add it here. I just wanted to make the comment at this point. Okay, thanks. Dan, remind me, do we vote on this, or do we just sort of look at it and say, okay, we got our input?
I think you usually vote on it, just to say you support it.
Okay, so could I get a motion of support for this FY24 budget policy direction?
I already gave it to you, so
Perfect. Okay, can we get a second? Second. Okay, Tom. All right, Hari?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, thanks. All right, on to the draft timeline for FY24. I think we looked at this last time. Has anything changed, Dan?
No real changes. Just want to bring it back to make sure that everybody knows the meeting dates. For October 7th, I think we're okay. We don't need to meet again to review the buildings because we did vote on those today. Town manager budget presentations on December 13th, and we're going to start the budget hearings January 12th and go for 4 straight weeks there, cover all the departments.
Okay. Anyone have any issues or comments, questions on that? Okay, great. Okay, FY22 financial reports. Good night, Jody. Thanks.
Sorry, Christina, how would you like to review the reports?
Sorry. Yeah, can you just give us kind of a brief recap on how we ended up with FY22?
Sure. We did have a lot of closeouts from operating budgets. A lot of it stemmed from vacancies and positions. It got very difficult to hire people this past year. And we had closeouts from things such as, the FinCom reserve, legal services. We spent about half the budget of 160,000. We only spent 80. Yeah, some other big ticket items like the schools, they use just about every last dime that they were allocated. And the same with the general, or actually the health insurance. We did make a transfer at year end into the health insurance trust to try to build up the reserves there, which is a good thing. But again, we just had closeouts across the board from police. We closed out $100,000 from personal services. Dispatch was 78. DPW, that was a rough one last year. We closed out almost $479,000 overall. And all this just contributed back to the free cash balance that we had certified. So free cash was certified at 6.2 million, which is a very good, healthy balance for us.
Okay.
That
DPW closeout, was that mostly due to vacancies?
Yeah, we had a hard time hiring heavy equipment operators. So, and we have not hired the assistant DPW director yet. We haven't found the right candidate yet. So that's still vacant. On the other side, the revenue side, this is a little easier to read, so I might share my screen. Just starting with the local revenue here. We did very well across the board. We exceeded the budget in every category here. As you can see here, we have the budget amount and the actual amount in every category. Most telling, our hotel excise recovered nicely. We're not quite at pre-pandemic levels, but we're showing great progress. Licenses and permits everywhere across the board except for investment income was the only one to go down, which is minor in the scope of everything here. State aid, I wanted to touch on real quick too. Most came in at the amounts that we were expecting. However, we did have a double payment for the exemptions for veterans and blind and surviving spouses. I think their office shut down during COVID. We didn't get the FY20 payment, so we're hounding them, and it finally came in 22 once they're back on operational. And we had a lot of miscellaneous revenue coming in for state aid. This was COVID-19 reimbursements. When a person was out on COVID leave, we could apply to the state to get reimbursement for those hours lost. And HR spent a lot of time plugging in these reimbursements. So we earned over $200,000 by being diligent about that, which is great. And our assessments in FY21, they skyrocketed. The school choice and the charter school setting tuition, when they recalculated the amounts of how many kids were actually sending out of district, they came in much lower. So even though they told us to budget 805,000, they only charged us 588,000, which is great. There's my 5-minute spiel.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Dan on that?
One question, Dan. There's been changes to the funding formula. Do you anticipate any issues for us here in town?
For Chapter 70?
Yeah.
Well, actually, this fiscal year, they doubled the amount they allocated to us. So that was a positive. I haven't heard of any issues we're going to have with that new formula. I think our student population has been going down, but they don't penalize us for having a declining population. So I haven't heard any negative impacts.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. If nobody has anything else, we'll move on to meeting minutes from our September 15th meeting. Did everyone get a chance to look at those? Are there any comments?
You want a motion to approve?
I would love one.
You got it.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks. Hari?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Shelby, you can abstain if you would like, since you weren't there, but
Yeah,
it's up
I'll
to you.
abstain.
Okay. Dennis?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So minutes approved. Finance Committee book assignments. I know it's early to do this, but the next time we meet, like sort of more formally, it's going to be our first budget hearing. So if you guys don't mind going through and we can just know who, which sections people are responsible for, unless we want to do this in an email.
I just have a comment, I guess maybe question. I think I did DPW last year, and it seemed like I took pretty much the department's budget narrative and just put that into the budget book, the FinCom book. Are we doing double work by trying to rewrite something that the department is already doing? And would our time be better served elsewhere?
Good comment. Yeah, Dennis?
Well, the idea is to go and see them and then basically question and verify that that's what it is. And then when your statement in the book is the independent evaluation of that particular department. So the voter can look at it and say, well, the finance committee saw this too. Sometimes you'll find a variance, not very rarely, but it'll happen. And then you have to try to bring it forward. But that's the purpose behind it.
Okay, I just saw that as the budget hearings, that we're asking those questions. So that's all.
I guess what I would like to see is whoever, whichever section you take, just take an extra, special look at that section. So we know at least one person is really diving in, understanding what's going on, what are the changes. That narrative does kind of get repetitive. I mean, I totally agree with you. Sometimes it's, you're just filling in numbers from this year and, there's not a lot there. And I have no problem with changing that so that it's not so dry and just, we went up or down in this area and here's the percentage.
So perhaps it's just as simple as just putting the independent, narrative on it as opposed to repeating the budget book.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So.
Okay. And we can certainly talk about that later. When we're actually collecting together the budget books. If nobody's ready to sort of sign up for a section tonight, we could try to do this over email. If each person just sort of independently emails me and Dan, so not the whole committee, but just myself and Dan, and say which sections you'd like to do, I can try to kind of divvy that out and figure that out unless people want to sign up tonight. Jake?
Are we allowed to do Google Sheets and then we just have all of the book assignments listed and people can sign up for whichever ones they want? Then we'll know if there are duplicates. So you guys don't need to have, 4 people that applied for Health and Human Services and then need to figure out, okay, we have to reallocate from there.
I guess we could try. I would hate to have somebody sign up ahead of somebody else and then, somebody gets like, I don't want to get stuck with general government again. I'm just saying.
I also think that doing a collaborative document is getting close to serial communication. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but it seems like it's really close to that fence.
Do you have any comment on that, Dan? Or
honestly, I don't know if it violates open meeting law.
Whatever you do, you're going to have to make sure that people can get a hold of the records, all the conversations.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I think it actually is more transparent because it is there for people to see, understand if it does violate some abstract rule that is in place. So if we want to do it, however you want to do it is fine. It was just an idea.
Mike,
We just have to remember that
Mike Wells might be a good guy to talk about that.
So
I think there is a second tenet of the, sorry.
So so we have to remember that the rules are not technology based. The rules are old. And I know my experience in municipal IT is that anytime that it is the ability to have serial communication where we're all communicating outside of a public meeting,
it's trouble.
You run the risk. And this is something simple that I doubt anyone would question, but we have to be careful how we proceed. That's all.
So why don't like I said, why don't we go back to why doesn't everybody think about it for the next week or so? Think about what section you would like to do or sections. Send it to myself and Dan, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Is this something we could add to the special town meeting? Sometimes we meet before the meeting or something.
We could do that too. Yeah.
That agenda and just 10 minutes or something.
That's a good idea. As long as everyone's going to be there. Okay. Yeah, Dan, why don't we just add that then? So just think about what sections you'd want to do, and then we can we can do that there. Sounds good. Okay. As far as the committee liaisons, I just have kept this here in case anyone has anything they want to report from any one of the committees. So if anybody has anything that has gone on recently from any of those, and Dennis?
Yeah, that is how they, the Town School Safety Task Force met this Monday, noontime, and I guess the big issue in there was that they voted a 8-3 vote to recommend a second school resource officer for the middle school. And there's still some issues regarding the implementation of security measures, which are going to be followed up as well. Those are the two issues.
Okay, thanks.
Is that a resource officer at both middle schools or just one?
No, just one at, so it'll be two total, one at Westford Academy and one at the middle school.
Okay.
So just to be clear, that'd be one shared between the two middle schools.
Well, there's two, no, there's two, there will be two officers, two paid officers, two salaries involved.
Right, but one dedicated to WA.
Right.
And then one shared between Blanchard and Stony.
Yes, yeah, the middle
Okay.
school, that's correct. Yeah.
Just being clear on that. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. If nobody has anything else, our next meeting will be at special town meeting, October 17th, Monday night, 7 o'clock at the Westford Academy gym. So a little different location. And if there's nothing else, I think we can adjourn.
Sounds good.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Second, all right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Take